Matt, a nerd, finds out that the girl next door he falls in love with is a former adult film actress. Let's start by getting to know the two main characters. Matthew Kidman is an ambitious senior at Westport High School. As graduation approaches, while other students write down their best memories, Matt struggles to find anything truly memorable about his high school experience. Matt dreams of a career in politics and has been accepted to the prestigious Georgetown University, but he can only afford it if he can win a large scholarship. So, while the others are running wild, Matt puts his mind to school and prepares his speech. He has two friends, Eli and Klitz, who are rather lame but very close. As student council president, Matt has raised $25,000 to bring a very smart boy named Samnang from Cambodia to the States. As the trio returns to class, they notice how the other students go to the beach to have fun. Matt proposes to join them, but his friends refuse. At this point, Matt leaves Eli and Klitz and hops in the car to go with the others. On the way, Matt gets chased by a policeman, who ends up in a huge accident. Fortunately, it was just a vision of Matt, who remained in the car. That same day when he returned home, he noticed a new car parked near his house. In fact, in the evening, as he was taking out the trash and practicing his speech, he met the girl next door, Danielle. Matt was immediately hooked by the blonde with blue eyes. He called Eli to tell him about her, but the latter was busy watching adult movies. While they were talking, Danielle had gone into her room to undress. Matt couldn't take his eyes off her and ended up being caught. Soon after, Danielle rang the doorbell of his house, and Matt's parents called him downstairs. Matt thought he was dead, but the girl didn't tell his parents anything. She really just wanted to get to know her new neighbors. His mother encouraged him to take a ride with Danielle to show her around the neighborhood. Matt was very embarrassed, and the tension was high in the car. Danielle revealed that she had seen him peeking and told him to get naked in the middle of the street. At first, totally unwilling, Matt ended up standing naked, without underwear in the middle of the street. Danielle left him stranded, and Matt was about to traumatize two elderly people walking by. Soon after, Matt got into the car, and the two stopped at a local diner. Matt learns that Danielle has quit her job and wishes to start all over. The two get to know each other, and Danielle decides to help him cut loose during this period. There's a spark between Danielle and Matt. When she brought him home, Matt was uncertain whether to kiss her or not, and just said goodnight to her. He told his friends about it, and Eli made fun of him for not taking the first step. One day while at school, Matt noticed Danielle waiting for him outside. Without a second thought, he joined her. Even the policeman was impressed to see Matt with the girl. Matt felt reborn and began spending more and more time with Danielle. The afternoons he used to spend studying, he now enjoyed with her. One evening, Danielle took Matt for another ride. The girl took him to a house with a pool, but Matt was worried they would get caught. Nevertheless, he joined her, and Matt realized that he was doing things with Danielle that he had never tried before. The two were about to kiss, but the owners of the house had arrived. Matt realized that the principal of his school was in the house and began to get agitated. Danielle helped him calm down, and they ran off, almost getting caught. Then, the two showed up at Eli's house to introduce Danielle to his friends. She jokingly introduced herself as an easy girl and left Eli and Klitz speechless. Matt invited Eli and Klitz to go to a party with them. The boys felt uncomfortable at that party, but they remained anyway. Soon after, Matt and Danielle are approached by the popular guys at school. One of them took Matt away to let Danielle stay with his friend. Matt is told to leave the party, but the moment he saw Danielle laughing and talking to another guy, he accelerated towards them. Matt decided to take the first step and kiss Danielle for the first time. The quirky Danielle and the steady Matthew both proved to be the perfect complement to each other. However, the relationship is challenged when Matthew discovers through his pornography-loving friend, Eli, that Danielle has recently been an adult film actress under the stage name Athena. Eli wants Matt to take advantage of this opportunity to sleep with Danielle. Matt, on the other hand, is devastated and can't stop seeing sexual visions of Danielle. Despite this, he is uncomfortable talking to her about it. Following Eli's advice on how to deal with this incredible revelation, Matthew takes Danielle to a sleazy motel. Acting like an alpha man, Danielle realizes that Matt has learned about her past and begins to provoke him, performing a striptease and offering herself to him sexually. When Matthew becomes distressed and asks her why she is doing this, Danielle calls him out on his basic intentions and abruptly breaks off the relationship. Matt tries to apologize, but nothing will be the same now. Danielle had finally found someone who was in love with her, but now everything was gone. After a few days, Matthew goes to Danielle's house and tries to reconcile with her, but discovers that she is going back into the porn industry and leaving for Las Vegas with her ex-boyfriend and porn producer, Kelly. Kelly seems like a cool guy and is impressed by Matt's love for Danielle. Then Kelly invites Matt to a nightclub to have some fun. Actually, Matt joined them only to talk to Danielle alone, but Kelly was always around. The next day, Kelly was outside Matt's school flirting with some girls. Matt didn't expect to see him there and walked over to say hi. Kelly got Matt and his friends into the car to give him a ride. Then Kelly accompanied Matt to the bank to deposit the $25,000 that will bring Samnang to the States. Kelly, thanks to his charisma, immediately charmed the bank employee and left Matt impressed. The next day, Matt learns that Danielle and Kelly were leaving for Las Vegas to restart a career as a porn actress. Matthew, filled with guilt and remorse, gets the idea to follow Danielle to Las Vegas. He takes the car, and along with Eli and Klitz, arrives at the adult film convention where Danielle was. Matt saw Danielle on stage and tried to talk to her, but she ignored him and left the stage. Danielle met Hugo, a director and competitor of Kelly's. Hugo would like Danielle to work for him, but Kelly interrupts their conversation. Kelly notices Matt and is surprised to see him there. Matt keeps repeating that Danielle shouldn't be here, and it unnerves Kelly. Kelly threateningly warns Matthew to not interfere with his business. The trio is about to head home, but Matt tries to convince Danielle one last time. Matt interrupts their business conversation, and in a genuine tone, told Danielle that she deserved more than this. He gave her the drawing she had drawn the first night they met and returned home. The next day, while Matt was reading a speech, there was a knock on the door. Surprisingly, it was Danielle. Evidently, Matt was able to convince Danielle to start over. After Danielle took Matt to school, he invited her to the prom, and she excitedly accepted. During class, Matt notices Kelly outside the classroom door. He was furious because Danielle refused to show up at the sets, ending up losing $30,000. Kelly kidnaps Matthew from school and takes him to a remote area. Matt tries to convince him that he will get a job with Danielle and they will pay back the debt. Kelly doesn't take him seriously and starts physically assaulting him, after which he gives Matt some Xanax, claiming to be aspirin. Kelly wants something else and offers to let him erase his debt by breaking into the home of a rival producer, Hugo Posh, to steal a prize statuette. But after Matthew breaks into the house, Kelly calls the police and reports a robbery. Matthew is seen by Hugo and then chased by his parrot. He narrowly avoids the police and calls Klitz and Eli to come to get him. On the way, they picked up Danielle, who had brought Matt's suit, and noticed that the Xanax had taken effect. Matt and Danielle rushed to a scholarship dinner. At the dinner, Matt acted very slouchy and improvised a deeply sentimental speech. Matt manages to impress the guest, but loses his scholarship anyway. But that wasn't the only thing bothering Matt by now, because he learned that Kelly had stolen the $25,000 Matthew had raised to bring Samnang to study in the United States. Unwilling to explain his ties to the adult film industry, Matthew had previously introduced Kelly to the bank staff as a student advisor. Although Matthew has done nothing wrong, he still fears facing expulsion or criminal charges for his unwitting role in the fraud and turns to Danielle, Eli, and Klitz for help. Danielle calls some friends from her porn star days, and they arrange with Hugo Posh to shoot a video on prom night. Matt introduced Klitz and Eli, who will be the producer, to the actresses they will be working with, April and Ferrari. Once they got to prom, the next step was to find actors ready to film themselves in the video. As was to be expected, the popular guys from school approached Matt. At that point, Matt had them in the palm of his hand and proposed that they film themselves in the video with adult film actresses. He gave them the scripts and contracts, and before letting them in, he dumped the guy who wanted to kick him out of the party. Then, while Matt and Danielle were dancing carefree, they were interrupted by a professor who had found a photo release form, after which he left. Matt and Danielle were interrupted a second time, this time because of a problem with the shoot. Apparently, one of the actors, let's say that didn't last long. In this critical situation, Matt decided to replace the actor. Matt prepared and had a vision, in which they were caught by the professor they met earlier. As he was about to leave, he noticed on his hand the mark of the kiss given earlier by Danielle, and remembered all the moments they spent together. In order to not betray her, he refused to participate in the video, and at this point, Klitz volunteered as a replacement. Right after, someone opens the door. It was Danielle. So ends the prom and the video shoot for Hugo. Everyone happily celebrated the happy ending, and then Danielle and Matthew made love for the first time in their limo. The next morning, Eli called Matthew to inform him that the tape with the video had disappeared. Upon entering the house, Matt is shocked to find Kelly inside, along with his parents and the principal. Kelly learned about the film being shot at the school and said that it was his idea, so he had stolen the tape. Kelly asked to speak privately with Matthew and says that unless he is given half of all profits, he will show the tape to his parents immediately. Matthew refuses because the money rightfully belongs to Samnang. Kelly repeats his threat, but Matthew challenges him, stating that he doesn't care anymore. As the tape begins to play, it becomes clear that Matthew and his friends have made a progressive and comprehensive sex education tape rather than a pornographic film. Matt's parents and the principal believe the tape could be very successful, and Kelly realizes that no one had actually stolen his idea. Hugo Posh and Matthew make millions from the video. Hugo keeps his word and pays Samnang to come to the United States, while Matthew has enough money to attend Georgetown and bring Danielle to Washington with him. The final scene is Matthew driving to Georgetown University in a BMW Z4. Matthew's story ends with him getting the girl of his dreams and a chance at the future he always wanted. In the meantime, Eli had just started his career as a producer, and Klitz his career as an actor for adult films. Click here to find out how a group of friends have been trapped in a sauna where the temperature keeps rising.